everybody. Welcome back to Life as a Law Student. Today, you might see another familiar face besides my own in the video. For those of you who are new, this is Steve Schwartz. He is an LSAT coach in New York, and I'm super excited he is joining us again for another discussion on the LSAT, how it ties into law school, what's going on in the world, all of that. We're going to have a quick discussion about those topics, and I hope that you enjoy. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Nicole. Thanks for having me back. How are things? How's law school treating you?
It's still law school. We were talking a little bit right before we started recording about how this semester isn't quite as terrible, I'm hoping, as the semesters before. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and lie to people and tell them like law school's a great time, because honestly, it's really not. But I will say studying for the LSAT was a little harder in certain ways for me than law school is. I think there's more certainty in law school than there is with the LSAT, especially when you haven't taken it yet. Have you come across that at all as you're working with students?
I kind of get what you mean. I feel like law school is what's typically more interesting for a lot of people. I mean, that's where people want to go typically. They're applying because they want to go to law school. The LSAT simply a means to an end, and all those random topics like car crashes and dinosaur extinctions. Like, what is this all doing here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like when you haven't taken the test yet, even if you've done some practice tests, there's just no real way to know exactly how it's going to feel and how you're going to do under the pressure of the time. And I mean, your LSAT, it's not entirely determinative of where you go, but it's a major factor. And that's something we've talked about before. So all of that pressure plus the uncertainty can be a lot. I just remember not loving that process.
Yeah, it definitely can. It definitely can be a lot. The LSAT is the biggest factor in the admissions process. Whether it should be or not, it's a totally separate question. But it is what it is. That's where we're at right now. And so the question is, how do you conquer it given that uncertainty and given all the changing formats? Because I know that it's changed a lot in the past couple of years, went from paper to digital on a tablet, and then now the online LSAT Flex.
Yeah, I would love to hear, you started this course a while ago, but how has it developed since when you first started it and why you first started it to especially what it's become in the last year?
Oh man, it's changed so much. I mean, I actually started these online courses back in 2012 when I didn't have this fancy microphone in front of me. I didn't have any of this recording stuff. I was just doing like PowerPoint screen share recordings. I've changed things a lot since then. Now I've got live classes currently 4 nights a week. I'll probably ramp it up even more at some point. And all those nights, we've got something going on, deep dives into logic games, logical reasoning, reading comprehension, group coaching, mastermind calls. And I'm doing it in part because of COVID. I was doing classes pre-COVID, but that was like 2 to 4 a month. Now we've got way more than that happening every single week.
Do you think that that would have been something that you would have even thought to do or thought that was needed before COVID? Or I guess if COVID had never happened, I mean, how much of a direct result of the pandemic was leading to this ramping up of classes?
I would say it probably had a pretty significant impact. I mean, because in-person prep is no longer an option. And so I was doing in-person classes before. I don't know that I could have offered in-person on top of what I'm doing online now. So it's been nice to be able to do it online. It's also a better recording experience. You can have a better microphone, better lighting, better video. You could always have that set up perfectly. And then students from anywhere in the world can connect.
I was going to say, that sounds like the biggest benefit to me. I mean, I know some people don't love the format of online learning, myself included, but there certainly is a benefit to being able to have access to people that otherwise would have been totally out of reach just from a physical location standpoint.
Oh, no, I think it's even better, honestly, because there's no commuting time. You never have to be late. You can connect from your phone wherever you are. If you ever miss one, the recordings are easy for me to upload and get into the course as soon as possible, typically within a day or two. And the recording qualities are better. I think with an in-person class, typically there was never any recording provided. And if there was, it might take quite a while. So I think that's nice that you can get that. And then also you form those connections with students to form study groups easily outside of class too.
Yeah, that was definitely the case for me. Being in person in law school, I don't know. I personally am not a super extroverted person, so it was kind of hard for me to find people and meet up with them to study on a regular basis. But last semester, I had a study partner for 3 of my classes, and we would just like talk on Zoom every night. It ended up being a really, really helpful tool for me that I don't know that I would have had the advantage of had we been in person. But yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about too the differences that I've seen now that I've been in law school for a little while. I'm more removed from the LSAT. I still get lots of questions about the LSAT, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know anymore. Like, you should have asked me 2 years ago. But having that removal, I definitely see like differences and similarities in the LSAT and law school. And I was kind of wondering if you had a take on this of how much the LSAT actually prepares you for law school, either from your own experience or testimony from students. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, first of all, I should add the caveat that I have not gone to law school.
Right.
I hear the stories of my students who go on to law school and I hear about what it's like, but I got so sidetracked with the LSAT, I never ended up even going. But you might be better prepared to speak on that than me, but I can offer some ideas based on what I've heard, what I've seen, my understanding of law school, which is that you have to change your mindset for the LSAT. You have to adopt a critical and skeptical way of thinking and learn to analyze arguments in a particular way versus the casual throwaway lines people say in conversation. If you really dig into those things, there's nuance, there's ambiguity, there's complexity, and the LSAT exploits all of that. And my understanding is that law exploits a lot of that as well. And that's where some of these interesting debates can happen. How's that all sound to you?
I think that's definitely a good point. Like, the one thing I would say that the LSAT does well is gives you, as far as preparing you for law school goes, is it gives you an idea of how well you're going to be able to follow the logical structures that are needed to make any kind of argument, whether or not you end up going into litigation or you're just doing contract law or real estate, whatever it is. There's going to be some aspect to your job that's going to be, okay, how do I get from step A in my logic to C in persuading whoever my audience happens to be that I'm right, whether that's a client or a courtroom. So I think that the LSAT requires and demonstrates a person's ability to make those steps, and you have really specific certain circumstances in all three of the sections, in addition to writing, that require you to kind of exercise that muscle in your brain, which is going to be needed all the time in law school. That being said, I would absolutely tell people that are struggling with the LSAT that doesn't mean you're going to struggle in law school. Like, you can be bad at the LSAT and good in law school. They are so not like correlated things in my mind, at least. So I think and vice versa. Like, if you do really well on the LSAT, that doesn't mean law school is going to be a breeze. I mean, I did relatively well on the LSAT. I had a 169, and I mean, some people might say, like, if you're not 170s, like, don't even talk to me. But I think if you're like over 150, like, good on you. So I did relatively well. And law school is still super, super challenging. I am pretty much smack dab in the middle of my class at Washington University, which is a top 20 law school. So that's a very comfortable place for me to be in. But I just want to tell people, like, no matter how you feel about the LSAT, there really is no bearing on your ability to be a lawyer or a law student and to do that well.
I agree 100%, by the way. I see so many stories of folks who score below 150 and still do fantastic in law school. It could just be that, the LSAT as a standardized test doesn't speak to your strengths, but that classroom experience changes the nature of your understanding of the legal stuff in law school itself, such that you could do fantastic in law school. And then there's the whole separate, and then as you said as well, you could rock the LSAT and then not put in the work on the law school side or not do well in that written exam format, and that could change things. And then there's the whole separate question beyond that of performance as a lawyer, what your success is in the legal field in your career after the fact is even more disconnected from the LSAT.
Yeah.
Getting to business skills, networking. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I would argue that goes for law school too. Like, people who are bad in law school could be great lawyers. I mean, our now president of the United States was like at the bottom of his law school class. Right. So obviously, try hard on the LSAT. Do the best that you can to get into the best school that you can for the kind of lawyer that you want to be. Like, that's a natural progression and a good goal to have. But if any of those goals isn't quite met in your journey, don't be discouraged that the entire trajectory of your life is thrown off now, because that's just simply not the case. If anyone has any questions about that, you can leave that in the comments below. But if you're especially excited about working with Steve and seeing other things he has to say, there are plenty of other videos on my channel where he's been featured. I will include a link to all of his stuff as well as those videos in the description below. Check out all of Steve's stuff and his videos. He has amazing resources that I used when I was studying for the LSAT, and again, got great results. So Steve, thank you as always so much for being a guest on my channel. You're welcome anytime. And yeah, do you have any final parting words for our viewers today?
No, thanks so much for having me on, Nicole. I would just say again, like, you are not your LSAT score. Just to wrap that up, like, you are not your score. You can improve significantly based on your starting point, but even if it doesn't happen for you, that's okay. You can still go to a great law school and become a great attorney. If you're looking for that support, then do check out that link in the description, because I've got a ton of resources to help you out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, and thank all of you for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel and to Steve's. And until next time, God bless.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.